What's up, YouTube? It's Pressure FPV here, and today I'm going to show you one method that you can do to connect your transmitter to your Xbox One. There is multiple methods, but this one is probably the most easiest and simplest to do. I will release more videos soon with other methods. So mid-February this year, 2020, the DCL worked alongside THQ Nordic and used Unreal Gaming Engine to release the first ever simulator on a gaming console. Since then, there has been updates for the PlayStation, so PlayStation users can use their transmitters. Xbox players, unfortunately, we never got this. We did get the update, but we didn't get the transmitter support. I did contact the Drones Champions League direct and contact their developers. They soon informed me that it was not them who was holding us back, but it was Microsoft themselves. Microsoft do not support third-party controllers or transmitters. So in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to connect your Xbox to your PC or laptop, and then we're going to emulate your transmitter. Please note you can use any transmitter going. You can even use DJI. This gives us the advantage, as on any other platform you cannot use DJI controllers. On this process you can use absolutely any transmitter going. For this demonstration I will be using my FR Sky X-Lite Tyrannus S, as I use this to fly my actual drone. The importance of using your actual transmitter that you fly your drone with is very useful, because you can transfer the skills you learn on the simulator over to real life. So without further ado, let's get into the process. The first thing that you're going to want to do is set up a brand new model on your transmitter. Keep everything standard as it comes in the factory settings. All of the ports, all of the inputs, and everything. I fly mode 2, so I will show you on this video what I keep my settings as. The inputs you put exactly as they are factory. The only thing I recommend is that you make sure that the internal and external antenna are turned off. As you can see, I'm trying to show that I haven't changed any curves, I haven't installed any scripts, I haven't changed any of the graphs, and everything is just completely standard. The inputs on your controller might be slightly different if you fly a different mode. Via this method that we are doing, we can change all the settings on the emulator, so all you need to do is keep your transmitter as the factory settings as a brand new model, and that's all you really need to do. Now we have the controller set up, let's set up the Xbox. This is a really simple process, and I'm sure a lot of you know how to do this already, but just in case, I'm going to run through it. So the first thing we need to do on our Xbox is go into our settings. Once we are in the settings, we go down to the devices and streaming option. In that option, we go down to device connections. You gotta make sure allow connections from any device is checked, and then you need to make sure allow play to streaming, allow game streaming to other devices are both ticked. So just to confirm that we got this right, it's devices and streaming, device connections, make sure they allow connections from any devices is checked, and the other two are checked. And that's done. That's all we're gonna do with the Xbox. The next step is to download and install a few programs onto your PC. It's pretty simple. I'm sure if you know how to download programs, it's very simple. But just in case, I'm going to run through so you can see what the process looks like. It does not matter what order you download the programs in, but I have all of them linked in the description to this video. First off, I'm going to download the Xbox 360 controller app emulator. I downloaded the 64-bit because that's what my PC is compatible with. If your PC or laptop is not 64-bit, you can download the 32-bit and it will not make a problem or any conflict at all. As you can see, I didn't actually download it, but that's because I already have it installed on my PC. Just so you're sure, don't install this program just yet. Just download it, but don't install it just yet until you've downloaded the other programs as well. So here I'm just demonstrating what the other websites look like for you to download from. The ViGEmBus is important as it installs drivers which make the other programs work. So this is the third and final program that you need. It is the VDX software, which is very, very important. You'll see why later. When downloading all of the software and programs, I would advise sticking them into one folder so you know exactly where they are, where to access them for future reference. So it's probably best if you install the emulator last, which is the first program I set to download. So install the other two first, one of the drivers and then the VDX, and then we get to the emulator third. Then what you want to do is run the emulator, and once you have the emulator running, you need to plug in your transmitter. You should see a pop-up like this once you do, but don't panic, this is good. Click create so it creates the file. Once you've done that, you'll get a pop-up that looks something a little bit like this, where you search automatically for the settings on the internet, not the local computer. Once you've searched it on the internet, it will find your transmitter immediately, and once it has done that, it would load up all the settings that you need. I'm just using a joystick here just for example. I've not actually got my FR Sky transmitter plugged in, but you should end up with a screen that looks similar to this. So you click the check option and then you click finish. This will generate two new files on your PC. Do not change them, do not delete them, do not move that folder. Wherever they said is where they need to be. Okay, so that's most of the hard work actually done. So let's move on to the next step. Okay, so what you do is you run the emulator program. And then after that, you're going to plug in your transmitter to your PC or laptop depending what you're using. As you can see, my joysticks are responding. We can set up buttons and we can set up the triggers on the transmitter to respond to buttons, but for this tutorial I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go through the basic setup and I'll release another video on how to set up buttons to triggers later. So this bit is pretty important. You have to go to the left thumb and the right thumb setting on the app. You need to set the anti-dead zone to about 25% on the X and the Y axis. If you don't do this, your transmitter will feel identical to your Xbox controller and you will not get the clarity and the smoothness of the movement of what you want. You need to click save in the bottom right hand corner to save these settings, and it may change these two files here that was previously generated before. If they wasn't previously generated, you don't need to worry because they will be anyway. You do not need to open these files, you do not need to change them, just leave them exactly as they are. Do not delete them as they are important. So at this point you're pretty much good to go. You're actually set up and you're finished and you're ready to use the transmitter on your Xbox One. So at this point you can open the VDX application and you should see where it says connected. You may have more than one connected depending on your USB ports, and you may have mouses and other things come up, but you can check that just by unplugging your transmitter and plugging it back in, and the one that is disconnected and reconnected is the one you need to use. So on the next one you see where it says connect, you need to click that button. Once you have clicked connect, you then need to open the Xbox Console Companion application. I'm going to assume that you've already signed into this ready. If you haven't already signed in, you need to sign into your Xbox account on the Xbox application. So from here, we choose the second option from the bottom, which will allow you to connect to your Xbox. Your Xbox does need to be turned on for this, and you do need to be on the same Wi-Fi or hardwired via LAN. I'm just going to run here a quick test to see what my connection strength is like. We can change the connection strength for better or lesser quality settings. It can take a while to do this test, but it's certainly worth it. If you're using Wi-Fi, the quality signal will be less, so it's important to know what you need to use. I'm going to let my test run from start to finish so you can see how long it should take. If your screen is spinning and spinning, have no worry, have no panic, it does take a while like I already said. It's worth noting that sometimes it's worth lowering your settings of the stream, just so you get a better responsivity on your transmitter. You will only need to run this test once. Once you have done this test and found the settings out, you will not need to do it again, but it's certainly worth doing for that one time. Okay, that did take a while, but here we go. You see how I have all green text on everything? That means I can choose any of those settings. For this demonstration, I will choose very high settings. You can change those settings by clicking into the Settings tab, going up to Xbox One at the top, and then choosing the quality here. And that's great. So now we can begin our first ever stream. So we go back to the Streaming tab, and we connect Stream. We have an issue, but this is good because if this pops up for you, I want to show you how to get around this. It's very simple. We just close everything. We unplug our transmitter, and we re-go from the start. So we rerun the emulator, we re-plug in our controller, and we give the gimbals a little wiggle. You see how the green dots don't line up exactly where your thumbs are? Well, this is good because we entered an anti-dead zone earlier, so they wouldn't do. We close that, and we rerun the VDX. We scroll down to the Xbox Console Companion app. We rerun it. We go back to the stream. We connect to the console. And we begin the stream. And here we go. We're ready to fly with our transmitter on the console. It's worth noting at this point that I still use my actual Xbox controller to control the menu on the actual game. You can move left and right, up and down with the transmitter, but it's much easier to use the standard controller still. We got to wait for it to load. I'm sorry about all this time, by the way. Loading, loading, and loading. I did try to make my stream as short as I can, but these loading times, goddamn loading times. And here we go. I can put my Xbox controller down, pick up my Tyrannus, and now I am flying around on the Xbox console, streaming to my PC, using my Tyrannus. For you, it could be a different transmitter, but any transmitter will follow the same process. Okay, so let's just give that once quick over as a recap, just to make sure you know what's going on here. So you've downloaded the free programs, you've installed them all, you've plugged in your transmitter, and everything is good to go. So you open the emulator program, you plug in your transmitter, and you give the gimbals a little wiggle just to make sure that everything is responding. In the future, I will make a new video explaining in depth of this actual emulator and how we can get all the other buttons working. But for this video, I just want to get you up and running. So everything's working, and we can close the emulator program. We open the VDX program and click Connect. We then open the Xbox Console Companion. You see on my screen how it's scrolling down on its own? That's because I have the left-hand gimbal right to the button on my transmitter. You need to put them in the center to stop this. After opening the Xbox Companion app, we stream again. And we're good to go. We can control your Xbox left, right, up, down with the transmitter. Remember to keep the gimbals in the center, otherwise it will conflict with your Xbox controller. So again, I use the standard controller for the Xbox to control my navigation on the game. You can choose any race, but I'm just going to choose free flight just to give you an example. So I put down my Xbox controller and I pick up the Trenis and I crash. If you need to respawn, you just use your actual controller, but you leave that near you for the Xbox. And that's it. So now you can use any transmitter on the Xbox to fly on DCL the game. I'm going to use this time just to show you a little more clips of me actually using my transmitter so you know that it works. You can contact me direct on my Instagram. I've left all the links in the description. If you need help, I will gladly help you at any time. I will release a few more videos shortly. One in depth on the emulator on how we can get all of the buttons working on the transmitters. Another video will be how to use a completely different method. There are different advantages and disadvantages to the method. The second method is using a USB adapter called a Titan USB. The downside to this is you have to pay for it. It costs about £50 to £100 depending on which version you use. The upside to using this video's tutorial is you can either use your PC screen or your TV screen. You can use your PC screen and other people can carry on using the TV as normal. So I'd just like to say thanks for watching. I hope this helped you out. If you do need to contact me, the best way is via my Instagram. Again, everything you should need is linked in the description below. Thanks for watching. Have fun.